The journey to Blackmoor Prison felt like stepping into the abyss. The bus rattled down a narrow road surrounded by gnarled trees, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The air was heavy with an unsettling silence, broken only by the sound of tires crunching over gravel. I sat in the back, a shiver creeping down my spine as I clutched my worn-out backpack, a mere remnant of my previous life. The world outside the grimy window faded into shadows, the trees thickening like a wall that separated me from the light. My mind raced with thoughts of what awaited me at Blackmore. Accused of a crime I didn't commit, I had found myself ensnared in a legal system that seemed to delight in punishing the innocent. They said Blackmore was the worst of the worst, a place where hope withered and died, where despair reigned supreme. As the bus approached the prison, I braced myself for the inevitable descent into hell. The prison loomed ahead, a fortress of dark stone and twisted iron. Its towering walls were crowned with barbed wire, glistening in the dim light like jagged teeth ready to snap shut on any soul foolish enough to venture too close. A cold wind swept through the entrance as the bus doors swung open, releasing a gust of stale air that carried the faint scent of mold and decay. "Welcome to Blackmore," the driver said, his voice devoid of any empathy. I stepped off the bus, my heart pounding as I took in my surroundings. The other inmates shuffled forward, their eyes downcast, each one a ghost of their former selves. I felt a pang of fear wash over me, but I pushed it aside. I needed to be strong. A guard, his face obscured by shadows, motioned for us to follow. "This way," he barked, his tone leaving no room for argument. As we entered the prison, a chill settled over me and the weight of despair pressed down on my chest. The halls were dimly lit, the flickering fluorescent lights casting eerie shadows on the walls. We were herded into a small assembly area, a grim chamber filled with cold metal benches. I scanned the faces of my fellow inmates, each one etched with lines of pain and hopelessness. They looked like they had seen things that should not be spoken of, nightmares that had etched themselves into their souls. The guard stood before us, a figure of authority cloaked in darkness. "You are now residents of Blackmore," he announced, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "You will follow the rules. There are no exceptions. Break them, and you will wish you hadn't." I clenched my fists, bracing for the worst. He began listing the rules, each one more chilling than the last. 1. Never make eye contact with the guards. They thrive on your fear, and if you show it, you become their prey. 2. Do not trust anyone. In this place, betrayal is the currency of survival. 3. Stay out of the shadows. They lurk there, waiting for the unwary. 4. Obey the whispers. They will guide you, but only if you listen closely. 5. Never ask about the past. The past has a way of catching up with you in Blackmore. As the guard's words echoed in my mind, a shiver ran down my spine. These weren't just rules, they were lifelines, each one more sinister than the last. I exchanged glances with the others, searching for some sign of understanding, but all I found were hollow eyes filled with fear. After the briefing, we were escorted to our cells, each one a small, dank space that reeked of mildew and despair. My cell was no different. A narrow bed, a toilet, and a small barred window that let in a sliver of light. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind racing. What had I gotten myself into? As night fell, the sounds of the prison shifted. The echoes of distant cries filled the air, haunting and mournful. I lay down on the thin mattress, but sleep eluded me. Instead, I listened to the whispers that crept through the walls, like the voices of lost souls begging for release. The first night in Blackmore felt like an eternity. The cries of anguish echoed through the corridors, a chorus of despair that seeped into my bones. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing myself to block it out, but sleep was a distant memory. Then I heard it, a scratching sound from the wall. It was rhythmic, almost like someone was trying to escape. My heart raced as I listened intently, every hair on my body standing on end. Suddenly, the scratching stopped, replaced by low whispers. "Help us, help us." The voices were soft and mournful, echoing through the stone walls. I could feel a pull, an overwhelming urge to respond, to help, But deep down, I knew better. I had seen enough horror movies to know that curiosity could be deadly. I pulled the blanket over my head and squeezed my eyes shut, praying for morning to come. As dawn broke, I sat up, the memories of the night flooding back. The whispers lingered in my mind, an unsettling reminder that I was not alone. I made a silent vow to myself. I would not let this place break me. I would find a way to survive. The next morning, the guard returned, his eyes glinting with a predatory gleam. "Rise and shine, newcomer," he said with a twisted smile. "Time to learn the rules. Remember, you don't want to end up in the shadows." After a hasty breakfast of cold gruel, we were taken back to the assembly area. I stood with my fellow inmates, trying to gauge their reactions. There was an unspoken understanding among us. We were all terrified, yet we needed each other to survive. The guard began to explain the hierarchy of the prison, the gangs that ruled the different blocks, the way power shifted like shadows in the night. "The Red Hand," he said, gesturing toward a group of inmates huddled together in the corner, their faces hardened with resolve. "They run this place. If you cross them, you'll wish you hadn't. Obey their rules, and you might just make it through the day." Fear twisted in my gut as I realized the gravity of my situation. The whispers had warned me to be cautious, but the sheer magnitude of danger was overwhelming. The guard continued, explaining how the prison operated like a living organism, feeding off the despair and hopelessness of its inhabitants. "Each block has its own rules," he explained, his voice dripping with malice. "Stay in line and you'll be fine. Step out of line and you'll find out just how brutal Blackmore can be." As he spoke, I glanced around the room. The other inmates wore expressions ranging from indifference to outright fear, but deep down, I sensed a flicker of rebellion. Perhaps I wasn't alone in my desire to escape this hellish place. That night, as I lay in my cell, the whispers returned, growing louder and more insistent. They seemed to beckon me, urging me to listen. I closed my eyes, focusing on the sounds that danced just beyond the walls. "Help us, help us." I couldn't resist any longer. I slipped out of bed and crept toward the source of the voices. They seemed to echo from the nearby cells, drawing me closer. I pressed my ear against the cold stone wall, listening intently. "Help us escape. Find the truth." The words were a siren call, and I felt my resolve hardening. I couldn't ignore this. If there was a chance to uncover the secrets of Blackmore, I had to take it. The following morning, I gathered the courage to approach a fellow inmate named Derek, a wiry man with a nervous demeanor. He had been one of the few to look me in the eye when I first arrived. "Derek," I said, keeping my voice low, "have you heard the whispers? They're telling us to find the truth." He looked at me, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity. "The whispers? You shouldn't listen to them. They can lead you to madness." "But what if they're trying to help us?" I pressed. "What if they know a way out?" Derek hesitated, glancing around as if the shadows themselves might overhear us. "I've heard things, stories of prisoners who vanished after following the whispers. No one knows what happens to them." My heart sank, but I felt a surge of determination. "I'm not afraid. I need to know what's going on in this place. Will you help me?" He seemed to ponder for a moment and finally nodded. "Okay, but we need to be careful. If the guards find out." As the days turned into weeks, I found myself increasingly drawn to the whispers, which grew more insistent with each passing night. They guided me to other inmates, those who shared the same sense of unease and desperation. We formed a small group united by our desire to uncover the truth about Blackmore. During our secret meetings in the shadows of our cells, we shared stories of the demons that roamed the prison, the eerie occurrences that had plagued us since our arrival. Each tale was more chilling than the last: vanishing inmates, strange occurrences in the night, and whispers that seemed to seep from the very walls. "The rules are simple," I explained one evening, my voice barely above a whisper. "We need to listen to the whispers, but we must tread carefully. The demons will test us, and we have to be prepared." Derek nodded, his expression grim. "But how do we know what's real? The shadows play tricks on you." "That's the key," I said, my heart racing. "We have to confront the shadows. We need to face whatever is lurking in the darkness." As we continued our nightly gatherings, we discovered that the prison had a strange, almost sentient quality. The walls seemed to shift and pulse, and the very air felt alive with energy. The demons were not just figments of our imaginations, they were an integral part of Blackmore, feeding off our fear and despair. One night, the whispers grew louder, pulling us deeper into the prison's twisted heart. We huddled together in the shadows of a forgotten hallway, the air thick with tension. I could feel the weight of our collective fear, but also a growing sense of camaraderie. We were no longer just individual inmates. We were a family, united by our shared struggle. "Tonight, we'll confront the darkness," I said, my voice steady despite the tremors in my hands. "We'll find out what the whispers want." Derek's eyes widened, but there was a spark of determination in his gaze. "Let's do it." As we ventured deeper into the bowels of Blackmore, the air grew colder and the shadows danced along the walls like living entities. We reached a heavy door, its surface scarred and battered. I pressed my ear against it, listening for any signs of life within. "Help us, help us." The whispers were now a cacophony, reverberating in my mind, urging me to open the door. With a deep breath, I turned the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with chains and shackles, remnants of the prison's dark history. It felt like stepping into a nightmare, a chamber where hope had been extinguished long ago. In the center of the room, an old iron chair sat under a flickering bulb, the chains that bound it stained with rust and dried blood. It was a sight that sent chills racing down my spine. "What is this place?" Derek whispered, fear lacing his words. "I don't know," I replied, my heart racing, "but we need to find out." As we stepped further into the room, the whispers surged, filling the air with a palpable energy. I could feel their urgency, their desperation clawing at the edges of my consciousness. I closed my eyes, allowing the voices to wash over me. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind us, plunging the room into darkness. The shadows writhed, and I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck. "Welcome," a voice hissed, echoing around us. "You seek the truth, but the truth comes at a price." Panic surged through me as I spun around, searching for the source of the voice. The shadows twisted and contorted, forming shapes that danced just beyond the flickering light. My heart raced, and I could feel the cold grip of fear tightening around my throat. "Who are you?" I shouted, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you want?" The shadows shifted, coalescing into a figure that loomed before us, a grotesque silhouette with glowing eyes and a mouth twisted into a mocking grin. "I am the keeper of secrets," it hissed, its voice a chilling blend of malice and amusement. "You've come seeking the truth, but the truth is a double-edged sword." I took a step back, feeling the others crowd closer, their expressions a mix of terror and defiance. "We want to know what happens to those who disappear," I demanded, my voice gaining strength. "We deserve to know." The keeper laughed, a sound that echoed through the chamber like the tolling of a death knell. "Oh, the naivete of the living. You think you can uncover the secrets of Blackmore without consequence. The price is steep and it demands sacrifice." "Sacrifice," Derek echoed, his voice trembling. "What do you mean?" The keeper leaned closer, its form shifting like smoke. "Those who seek the truth must pay for their knowledge with their very souls. Each time you listen to the whispers, you come closer to your own demise." I felt a chill seep into my bones, but my resolve remained. "Then let us pay the price," I declared, surprising even myself with my conviction. "We are ready to confront whatever it takes." The keeper's laughter faded into an eerie silence. "Very well," it said, its tone shifting. "If you wish to uncover the truth, you must face the demons that dwell within. Only then can you hope to escape Blackmore." With that, the shadows surged forward, wrapping around us like tendrils of darkness. I fought against the encroaching dread, but the cold seeped into my soul, filling me with an overwhelming sense of despair. When the shadows finally receded, we found ourselves in a vast chamber illuminated by flickering torches. The air was thick with an acrid scent, and the walls were lined with grotesque paintings depicting scenes of suffering and despair. "Welcome to the trials," the keeper's voice echoed in the distance. "To survive, you must confront your deepest fears. Only by facing the darkness within can you hope to escape this place." A sense of foreboding washed over me, but I held my ground, unwilling to show weakness. "What kind of trials?" I shouted into the darkness. Each of you will face your own demons, the keeper replied. The fears that haunt you, the regrets that bind you, only by confronting them can you hope to move forward. Before I could respond, the chamber dissolved into darkness and I felt myself being pulled into a void. I gasped as memories surged forth, dragging me back to moments I had buried deep within. I found myself standing in my childhood home, a place filled with warmth and laughter, but the air was thick with a sense of foreboding. The walls were adorned with photographs, each one a reminder of the happiness that had once been mine. "Mom," I called, my voice trembling, but there was no response. The house felt empty, hollow, like a shell of its former self. Suddenly, the scene shifted, and I was thrust into a memory that filled me with dread. I watched as my younger self stood in a room, arguing with my parents. The tension in the air was palpable, each word cutting deeper than the last. "You never listen," I shouted, anger boiling over. "You don't understand me." In that moment, I felt the weight of regret wash over me. I had let my anger cloud my judgment, pushing my family away when they needed me most. As the memory faded, I found myself back in the chamber, gasping for breath. The keeper loomed before me, a twisted grin on its face. "You faced your past, but it is only the beginning. Your journey is far from over." Before I could respond, the chamber shifted again, and I watched as Derek was thrust into his own trial. He stood in a darkened alley, the echoes of laughter ringing in his ears. But the laughter was tinged with malice, mocking him. "Look at him," a voice sneered. "The loser who never amounted to anything." Derek's face paled as he looked around, confusion and fear swirling in his eyes. "No, stop it, this isn't real." But the shadows pressed closer, feeding off his panic. "You're a failure," the voice taunted. "You let everyone down." Derek fell to his knees, the weight of his insecurities crashing over him like a wave. I tried. I really tried. I could feel his pain, his anguish echoing through the chamber. I reached out, desperate to pull him back from the brink. "Derek, you're stronger than this. Don't let them win." With those words, the shadows seemed to hesitate. Derek looked up, determination sparking in his eyes. "You're right. I won't let them take me." With a roar, he surged forward, confronting the shadows that had tormented him. The laughter turned to screams as he pushed through the darkness, emerging victorious. As the trials continued, we watched one another face our demons, each victory strengthening our bond. We became a force to be reckoned with, united in our desire to escape the horrors of Blackmore. The keeper continued to taunt us, but we learned to push back against its influence. Each trial brought us closer together, forging a connection that transcended the prison walls. We were not just inmates, we were survivors. One night, as we huddled together in the shadows, I felt a sense of hope begin to blossom within me. "We can do this," I said, my voice steady. "Together, we can find a way out." Derek nodded, determination etched on his face. "We just need to confront the final trial. The whispers have told me there's something hidden in the depths of Blackmore, a way to break the curse." "What do we need to do?" I asked, my heart racing with anticipation. Derek's expression grew serious. "We need to face the keeper one last time, but this time, we'll be ready." With our plan in place, we ventured back into the heart of Blackmore, ready to confront the keeper once and for all. The air crackled with tension as we approached the chamber where we had first encountered it. The shadows writhed around us, but this time, we stood together, united in our determination. "We're not afraid of you," I shouted, my voice echoing through the chamber. The keeper materialized before us, its twisted grin widening. "You think you can defeat me? You're just souls trapped in this place." "We are more than that," Derek shouted back, his voice strong. "We've faced our fears, and we won't back down now." The keeper's laughter echoed through the chamber, but it was tinged with uncertainty. "Very well. If you wish to face me, then let the final trial begin." With a wave of its hand, the chamber shifted again, transforming into a nightmarish landscape filled with darkness and despair. The walls seemed to pulse with malevolent energy, and I could feel the weight of the keeper's power pressing down on us. As we navigated the nightmarish landscape, we felt the shadows encroaching around us, threatening to pull us into the depths of despair. But we held on to one another, drawing strength from our shared experiences. "Together," I shouted, urging everyone to focus on the light within us. "We can't let the darkness win." With that declaration, we forged ahead, pushing back against the shadows that sought to engulf us. The Keeper's voice echoed around us, a haunting melody filled with rage. "You cannot escape. You are bound to this place." But we pressed on, fueled by the bonds we had formed. As we reached the center of the nightmarish landscape, the Keeper materialized before us, a monstrous figure writhing with dark energy. "You think you can defeat me?" it bellowed, its voice a cacophony of despair. "I am the embodiment of your fears." "We are not afraid," Derek shouted, stepping forward. "We've faced our demons and emerged stronger." With that proclamation, we joined hands, channeling our collective strength. Light surged from within us, illuminating the darkness and pushing back against the shadows. The Keeper shrieked in fury as the light grew brighter, flooding the chamber with warmth. The shadows writhed and twisted, but we stood firm, our unity acting as a shield against the encroaching darkness. "You cannot hold us," I shouted, my voice resonating with power. "We will break the curse of Blackmore." With one final push, we unleashed the light within us, overwhelming the Keeper's darkness. The creature shrieked in agony as the shadows shattered around us, collapsing into nothingness. As the darkness receded, I felt a sense of liberation wash over me. We had defeated the Keeper, and in doing so, we had freed ourselves from the prison's grasp. In the aftermath of our victory, we emerged from the chamber, gasping for breath as sunlight flooded our surroundings. We had faced our fears, confronted the darkness within, and emerged victorious. But as we stood together, a sense of uncertainty lingered. "Is it really over?" Derek asked, his voice filled with doubt. "We've broken the curse," I replied, looking around at the remnants of the prison. "But we need to find a way out." Together, we navigated the remnants of Blackmore, guided by the whispers that had once tormented us. The shadows had receded, replaced by a sense of clarity and purpose. As we approached the exit, I felt a sense of hope blossom within me. We had survived the horrors of Blackmore, and together we would find a way to rebuild our lives. As we stepped outside the prison walls, the sun bathed us in warmth, a stark contrast to the cold darkness we had endured. The air felt fresh and clean, filled with the promise of a new beginning. We turned to one another, a shared sense of triumph evident in our eyes. "We did it," I said, a smile breaking across my face. "We escaped." But as we walked away from the prison, a lingering sense of unease hung in the air. The memories of our time in Blackmore would haunt us, and the darkness we had faced would forever be a part of us. "Where do we go from here?" Derek asked, glancing back at the imposing walls of the prison. I took a deep breath, allowing the warmth of the sun to wash over me. "We face the future together. We've conquered our fears, and now we'll forge a new path." As we walked away from the shadows of Blackmore, I knew that our journey was far from over. The scars we carried would serve as reminders of our resilience, and the bonds we had formed would guide us through the darkness that lay ahead. Months passed, and as we rebuilt our lives, the memories of Blackmore faded, but never disappeared. We found solace in one another, leaning on our shared experiences to heal the wounds that the prison had inflicted. The whispers, once haunting and malevolent, transformed into echoes of encouragement. They reminded us of our strength, our unity, and our ability to overcome the darkness. Though the past would always be a part of us, we learned to embrace the light that now filled our lives. Together, we forged a new path, filled with hope and the promise of a brighter future. As I stood at the edge of a new beginning, I realized that while Blackmore had been a prison run by demons, it had also been a catalyst for transformation, a place where we confronted our fears and emerged stronger than we ever imagined. In the end, we discovered that the greatest power lay not in the absence of darkness, but in our ability to shine brightly in its presence.